Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are fitting the Nissan 370Z rims to the FG Falcon. So basically I've done everything now. I know this works. This is how you fit them. What you'll need is you'll need two 10mm wheel spacers with a lip, the hub-centric lip for it to sit on, for the rim to sit on. These are 10mm. They're Cold is the brand product, COALD. The center bore is 70.5mm. You'll be able to find these on eBay. That's where I bought these from. They're a 6061 T6 aluminium. They cost about 90 bucks, I think, for the pair of them. So you'll definitely need 10mm size. I've tested that already. Okay. Next, you will need long wheel studs for an FG. The only place I found that made these is the only place that sells them is a place called Nice Bolts, N-I-C-E. They sell them at Autobahn. They sell them at a bunch of auto stores. The number you need is that number. I think it's SP2710. You'll need 20 of these if you're going to do the entire car, and you'll need to punch out your old studs and punch these in. Okay, so you'll need that. You'll also need these. These are an adapter which adapts the Nissan style seating surface in there to a standard 60-degree concave mating face. Otherwise your lug nuts won't bolt down and you'll have to get special ones made. This is a GK Tech product. If you search for Nissan 370Z adapter, these will come up. They're not that cheap, but you need them. And this recommendation for buying these bolts is they're cheaper if you buy them directly from Nice themselves. The pro tip is that they don't actually check if they just ask you if you're a business. You can just put in any old bullshit business name. They don't ask you for an ABN or anything. And then you can buy these for $10 a bolt instead of the $16 or $17 a bolt that Autobahn will charge you. Yeah, and then the last thing you need is the rims, and you need the center bores milled to 70.5mm because that's what Falcons run. I think Mustangs run it as well, but yeah, that's everything you'll need. We're going to put them on the car today. We've got everything we need here, so stay tuned. I'll go through that process, and by the end of the day we should have everything on the car. So here we go. Okay guys, so I've shown you how to get to this stage before in another video. I think it was called More Spaces, More Problems, so go consult that if you're not sure how to get to this point where the brake and the road is off. But once here, I've got to take this actual bearing off here. So basically what you'll need is it's 3 15mm and 1 Torx or Torque X or whatever it's called. It's, you know, the star bit pattern. That's for the speed sensor on the back, and that's for the bolts that actually, here you can see those bolts behind there that actually hold this bearing on. So I'll show you where they are, just one second. Okay, so here we are at the back of the wheel bearing. Let's see if I can get this camera to focus. So that's the speed sensor there with the Torx, and then just above that, if I can get my hand in there, just above that up here, that's one of the first 15mm. Then, sorry about this focusing, there's the second one just there below the speed sensor, and you may have to turn chuck your key in and turn the wheels to give you better access, but yeah, take those 3 15s out and then the wheel bearing will come off. This is just a project, sorry, update on how we're going. So we pulled the wheel bearing off, and then so we pulled the wheel bearing off, and we managed to punch kind of 2 of the studs through so far. So show you, we're making a bit of a mess of the head of them, but one of them is that one we almost got flush, and this one, if I can get it to focus, yeah, we got that one flush. So yeah, it's just a process, you know, using a punch like this, and just on the head of them. And when you're coming from the other side, you know, using the punch with a hammer on the head to knock them out. And yeah, I'm freezing some of these at the moment to try that out, like try a frozen one, see if it makes it any easier. But yeah, it's just a process, got to knock them all out, put the new ones in, and then yeah. Okay guys, so we've managed to get all the studs in, the extended studs. It was a bit of a pain in the ass, to be honest. We tried freezing these in the freezer before we tried belting them in to make it a bit easier. It did help a little bit, but not that much. Tried heating the actual housing before putting them in. Maybe it helped a little bit, not that much. The difference is that these are actually slightly bigger than factory, but I don't think there's anything else you can do, because I can't find anything anywhere else that's even remotely this long and these specs. If you guys know of them, let me know. But anyway, so yeah, basically they're all in. They're all sort of as flush as they need to be. The heads of them got a bit of a beating, you know, a few dents in them, the heads of them, but they didn't crack or anything. As you can see there, the head's got a bit of a battering. But yeah, that's it. So now, this is basically the tester one put together. I'll reassemble it on the driver's side, which is basically what it came off, which was the driver's side. I'll reassemble it all, Loctite it all down, and then put the rim on and drop the car and see how it all sits. And if it does work, then I'll do the other side, and then attempt the rears. The rears, I'm not sure how that's going to go. But yeah, basically, like, if we find a better way to press in the studs as we go, we'll let you know, because yeah, that was a pain. That took us like an hour of belting them and freezing them and trying not to crack them, and yeah, it was not easy. So yeah, keep you posted, guys. Okay guys, so this is hub back on the car. These bolts here are back through. For your own reference, 126 Newton meters is what you got to torque these down to from the back. Use Loctite as well, because they had Loctite on them. And then don't forget to attach the ABS line to the back in the same position that it was before, because if you don't, you can turn this hub, and if you don't line it up right, it's in the wrong spot. So it's supposed to be, if I can get a spotter where it is. Maybe I have to turn the camera upside down, I don't know. Hang on. Yeah, that's where it is. So there's I'm not sure what part of the suspension that is, but for your reference, it's just above that. And yeah, so don't forget to attach that back down, torque those back down, torque the bolts back down to 126. And yeah, we'll put the rotor back on, and we'll finish this up and see how it sits. Okay, so rotor's back on. Not rotor, sorry. The caliper and everything's back on, and the rotor as well, really. That's how it all looks. So don't forget to put your lines back on. Don't forget the mounting bracket. If you see this ridge, where are we? See this ridge here? That's how the mounting bracket goes. Loctite these bolts, the 15mm bolts that we took out. You want to do 115 Newton meters. That's the spec. And yeah, so now carry on with the next step. Okay, next step, 2 seconds. Just get your 10mm spacer, shove it on. Make sure it's sitting flush, like that. And yep, now time for the rim. Okay, so we've put the rim on now. The 10mm spacer is in there. That's how much thread pokes through, plenty. But yeah, now I'll shove the next step. Okay, so next you'll need these to put these 5 adapters in. So yeah, just shove the 5 adapters in and show you where we're at after that. Okay, so now you put all the adapters in. Now you just fasten on your standard lug nuts and that's it. Alright, we'll see when we call you back when we get there. Okay, so everything bolted, everything settled. And that's the final product. That's what she looks like. So that's how to put Nissan 370 Z rims on your FG Falcon. Clearly legal. Looks great with that silver on the blue, in my opinion. Looks kind of like FPV twists almost. Clearly legal. There you go, that's the fronts. Let's probably make a video for the rears soon. So yeah, keep you posted. Thanks guys, like and subscribe. Alright guys, so we've done the fronts now. So this is basically how to do the rears. So what you'll need is, you'll need longer wheel nuts, so that's 40 mil. You'll need these longer wheel studs because you got to go punch out all the wheel studs that are on the back of the car and put longer ones in. You'll need the adapters, those GK Technic adapters I was talking about, which convert the Toyota style wheel nut to the like the Falcon like concave head. So you need those adapters as well. And then you know, you probably need a new one of these, which are the hub axle nuts, which actually hold your axle on. Ford recommends to replace them every time you take them off with a new one. This is a genuine Ford part, cost me a fair bit, so it's up to you guys if you want to run the risk of not replacing it, but I mean, it's not advised. And the head on this is 36, I believe, but I'll cover that in a later part of the video. So let's get started. Okay, so actually just when you start it, actually use an Oki strap to support the neck of the you don't actually want to put it there, you want to put it more forward, so it's actually on the this silver bit just there. You want it wrapped around there, which means it'll support the neck of the shaft to stop it from going at a grotesque angle. And then what you want to do is have someone put their foot on the brake in the car, and you'll need a 36 mil socket and put that around the hub nut and then break that loose. So that's the first thing you want to do. Next we'll move on to taking the brake off. Okay, so once you've got rid of this hub nut in the center, then you want to take the brake caliper off. So see that hole there and that hole down there where it's shiny. Those are the two you need to take these 15 mil bolts out of there. Once that's done, you can literally just take your hand and whack the brake caliper and it will just slide off. And then once you've done that, you want to kind of cable tie it so there's not pressure on this brake line. Cable tie it, I usually cable tie it up here near the spring. So we'll do that next. Okay, so now you got the caliper off. So as I said, you just give it once you've undone those 2 bolts, you just give it a whack, it will swing away. I then just cable tied it up here on the spring, use 2 cable ties. Now I've got my Oki strap exactly where I want it. Hook there, supporting the neck of that, like that. And basically, now what you got to do is take the rotor off. So you literally just yank and whack, and the rotor will slide straight off. And that's it. Make sure your handbrake's down and no one's touching the brake pedal. Okay, so now I managed to get the rotor off. Basically, the concept is all these control arm bolts and everything like that have to be done, and the knuckle down the bottom all have to be done when the car's at ride height, when it's pressurized. However, the shock absorber here at the bottom has to be taken off when the suspension is hanging loose. So what I'm actually going to do is now I got the rotor off, I'm going to unbolt the shock at the bottom, let it hang loose, pressurize the suspension, and then unbolt everything else. So get that sorted. Okay, so taking the bolt out, bolts through the bottom of the shock absorber down there. Basically, once you've done that, and if your suspension's like hanging down loose, so just to give you a reference, it's come through there. So now you've done that, you can literally just whack the side of the shock absorber and it will pop out of its housing and just dangle loose. That's what you want to do. So if I just give that a belt like that, that's it. It's out. Okay, so now you've unbolted the shock, knocked it out of its place, and you've got your scissor jack and you've loaded up the suspension to approximately ride height, and you've got your shaft supported. You then want to take off the ABS sensor, which is just here. So just undo that little nut, take that ABS sensor and just push it out the way. Just remember the route that it followed. Okay, so now you've done the ABS sensor and you've tucked it out of the way. Next you want to undo these 3 control blade 15mm bolts just here. So yeah, do that next. With the suspension still sitting at ride height, as in still jacked under pressure. Okay, so we finished unbolting the control blade here from the knuckle. Now the next step would be to do the park brake. So you want to take this pin out, which will then give you the slack to maneuver this park brake a bit. Then you want to unbolt the park brake here and here. So take that pin out, undo the park brake here and here. Then that should give you enough play with this. Make sure your park brake is down, not on. Then it should give you enough play with this to unhook it out to the right here. And once that's off, you're good to go to the next step. Okay, so now the handbrake cable is off the latch at the back. Next, you're going to start undoing all the actual stuff that holds this knuckle on. So first is the upper control arm, which is done via that. Let's do that. Okay, so we've undone this upper control arm now. Next step, undo this section of the knuckle. Can't remember what it's called. Undo that next. Okay, so now you've done all that, the only thing that'll be holding the actual knuckle assembly onto the car is just this last bolt down the bottom here. So, you know, make sure your strap is supporting the neck of this thing. And then also I've just concocted this sort of milk crate and some wood here so that when you're sort of flexing with the ratchet down, you're not putting a shitload of pressure on the neck of the axle there. So yeah, that's what you got to do. Take the last one off and then the whole knuckle assembly will just come away. Okay, so if you're having some trouble, like if your shaft is not sliding off the whole knuckle assembly once you've done all that, best thing to do is take your parking brake shoe off. You do that by, there's little wires behind. You just got to unclip one wire on that side and one wire on the left side here. Once you unclip those 2 little wires, your parking shoe can slide down and come off. And then once you've done that, we'll show you what to do next. Okay, so once you got those 2 little wires in there, out of their little housing, you then want to take your brake shoe at the top here and push down, and that'll slide it out of its housing here at the bottom, and then you can tip it forward and take the brake shoe completely out the way. So once you got the park brake off, I mean, you shouldn't do this very hard, but we're literally just trying to pop the shaft back through. So we're using a bearing puller. So see how this goes. Okay, so once you got the shaft through, you have this separated away from the car. Next thing you want to do is you want to take some sort of thing like this, like I'm using this old shitty socket, and you're putting it on the inside metal, just only the inside metal. So you'll see this is the perfect size where it's just on the inside only, and you're basically supporting the weight of this thing and then whacking this socket, and it will push the whole hub assembly out the front of the knuckle there. So that's next. Okay, so I've skipped ahead to just once I put all the studs in. It's the same process as I've shown you with the front of the car, no different. So now I've got all the new extended studs in. I'm just going to take some grease and just grease the shaft up again, and just grease the inside of that up again, and then just slide the housing back in. And then after that, you're just doing everything again in the reverse order, putting it all back together, and that's it. Show you guys at the end. Okay, so just a quick tip on when you're putting this hub back through the knuckle housing is when I was doing it, so basically all I was doing was I put the shaft, I started the shaft off inside the bearing housing, and then I was just using, like a block of wood like that, and a mallet, and using that to sort of smack it back inside. But what ended up happening when I was doing that was, I'll just show the back of this. This actual, so obviously you can see where the blue grease is, that's the actual shaft there spinning inside the housing. So all this, these other internal metal rings, they actually punched through. So when I was striking the hub back through, it punched some of those other rings out. So it didn't actually unseat the bearing, like the bearing was still pressed in, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But just sort of a piece of advice, what you might want to do is when you're striking this hub with, so you grease the shaft, and when you're striking this housing back inside the bearing, is just have something pressing against the back of this whole lot here, so that you can't punch the whole lot back through. So basically what we ended up doing was we basically just got, like, this is just off an old weight here, but it was the perfect size to sort of sit against that, and then we just whacked the hub back through, and then it stopped all this stuff from getting punched back out. So yeah, now it's back together, and the hub's through. You can see that it's spinning fine. But yeah, you don't want to, if you dislodge the bearing, you're going to be in a world of hurt, especially if you don't have a way to press it back in. Like if you don't have a mechanical press, like I don't, you don't want to knock the bearing out of its housing and everything if you don't have to. So yeah, that's just sort of one final tip. And yeah, now just putting everything back on in the reverse order that it came off, and yeah, see how we go. Yeah, so just back at the car, we've bolted on everything back on the car, rims on, just show you basically the last little thing, which is same as the front. You take your adapters, you can see here the extended studs, put your adapter on your stud, take your extended wheel nut, your 40mm, you just fasten that down, and you don't drop it like I just did. And yeah, then that'll be it. So the fronts and the rears are now done. Fix my camera, but yeah, turn this the right way around. The fronts and the rears are now done. And that's the end of it. I'll take a video now. I'll drive for a bit, let all the suspension settle, and then I'll show you what it looks like now with the end product. But there you go, guys. Nissan 370Z rims on an FG Falcon, doable. So just one more thing is, as you can see on the rear, there's no need for a spacer on the rear, because these don't rub the same way the fronts rub on the suspension, because there's no suspension elements for them to rub on as much back here. Obviously there's the shocky, but like it's nowhere near it. So it's positive that you don't have to run a spacer on the back. It's just the extended studs, the adapters, and the longer wheel nuts, and obviously getting them bored is the only things you have to do to get the rears to fit. So yeah, it's good. So while there's a gap in the weather, I thought I'd just quickly shoot this video so you can see now. That's what the after looks like now that I've fully put them on. I've driven them on for a few days now. So I've driven with them on for a few days now to just see that that they ride alright and they don't rub or anything. So you can clearly, everything's settled. Like you can clearly see, you know, that they're legal, both front and rear. Clearly, you got so much on that front one. The rear is pretty close, but I mean, this is without guard rolling. Like that's without me rolling the guards, you know. Like it's fine. So yeah, obviously there's a 10mm spacer on the front, which I talked about in the videos. But yeah, that's it. That's what they look like, and that's how to do it. I can also go bigger. So this is only a 245 40/19. Could go a lower profile tyre. These are a 9-inch rim, so I could go. I know I can go 255. I'm not sure if I could go 265. Obviously, as just a street car, it's probably fine. But I'm thinking more from a track. Obviously, this is a track car project, so I'm just wondering how it would go going around corners at 150 kilometers an hour with tyres that are not the correct seating size. So I actually don't know, so I have to do some research into that. But these are only 275s. Wherever the bloody reading is here, they're 275s. And they can go even lower. I could go a 30 instead of 35. Could go an even lower profile tyre, and I could run 285s instead of 275s healthily. I mean, you can see the seating surface here. Could easily run 285. I don't know about any bigger than that. As to rubbing, there's no rubbing issues at all. So the front, I can full lock my steering and it doesn't rub at all. It doesn't rub at all in terms of when the car bounces over speed bumps or anything like that. The back actually does rub, but it only rubs when you've got like a bunch of people in the back of the car. So if you've got like some weight in the car and then you go over a speed bump, you'll just hear the edge here clip the rubber. You hear like when it hits the rubber. But you can sort that out with like rolling the guard, stiffer suspension so it doesn't have as much travel, or a number of different things. But either way, like not a big deal. So yeah, there you go. That's what the end product looks like. Like and subscribe.